to the customers on path 3, but generating the sales, it went down, and now we have to analyze where we went wrong. Actually, one of the reasons in the analysis tab, what was given was the mistake was we removed this Wi-Fi thing, that plugin type, which is commonality to all the customers. Not only you should concentrate on path 3 customers, but some common features, if you keep, some other customers will also be there. But we had a thinking that we have to choose one path of the 3 paths and attract only the non-customers. And maybe pricing, we could see what we went through the text in the PDF was, if we provide all the features that the customer wants, that is in path 3, the customers, the parents wanted the protection and control of the game, control of the children, game over the children, because they were spending a lot of time on video. So all the features, if we are added, they will not mind paying extra money. So that was what was the intention. And as Blue Ocean strategy, we give add value, and like the Citric example, Circus, they increased their price. So we followed on that lines, but I think sales did not pick up, and many units is on the inventory. So round 1 was quite disappointing for us.
That's fine, Gayatri, and thank you for sharing at length, how your experience was, and you summarized it quite well, that we need to look at not just one particular path, but a combination of things, right? Because that way we can enhance or increase our non-customer base, and thereby increase the productivity overall in terms of revenue generation, in terms of having a higher number of unit sales, so on and so forth. So don't be disappointed, is what I would say, because this was the first round. You have another 6 years to go in which you can improve your performance. And let me just clear this at the onset, that it was not expected that your EBITDA or your SPI would be in the green from the very beginning. So don't worry, as we move along, you would see how others have performed, and you'll be able to benchmark yourself as far as everybody else is concerned, or the other teams are concerned. Okay, good morning to everybody who's on the call. The session is being recorded now, and I hope everybody can see my screen and hear me all right as well. So today's session is going to be an hour and a half long, so 90 minutes is what we've got, and there are 2 aspects of the session. In the first part of the session, we would look at your performance in Learn Blue 1, and what are the learnings that are stemming out from Learn Blue 1. In the second half, we would look at what is your role in Learn Blue 2, and how are you going to be working with your team to increase your share price index and enhance your sales effectiveness as well. So that's the structure. I hope that's clear to everybody. I'm quickly going to move on because I have a lot of information to share. So first and foremost, analysis. So let's just look at the scenario that was available to us as a business context, and then try and look at what could have been the possible strategies evolving from this business context that was presented in the simulation. And then we would look at how each team has performed individually, and probably take the learnings from there. Yeah. So this is a linear progression. We look at the context, analyze what our approach should have been, and then look at the performance. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, perfect. Right. So first and foremost, let's look at the Agile strategy canvases, because that was your first task, right? To create the Agile strategy canvases. Now, your Agile strategy canvases might be a little different. I remember having a question on the WhatsApp group that, okay, I've done it multiple times, but it doesn't go beyond 98%. Okay, the idea of you having to draw the Agile strategy canvas was just to give you a flavor of how this is and how this probably would work. So it's a tentative depiction of the market size. And now, basis how you draw your strategy canvas, you can categorize what different players are trying to do. So if you look at Shiny Station is focusing on sophisticated personal gaming. Yeah. If you look at Purple Player, it's focusing on sophisticated gaming with the online community. And if you look at Redbox, it is personal gaming at a great price. And the Yellow Console is all about online, you know. So we can see definitive trends emerging from the Agile strategy canvas. This is just a pictorial representation of the information available on the simulation, right? So it's indicative in nature. You don't have to be deductive about it that, okay, I have to get it 100%. That is not the purpose of this particular canvas, right? So that's how you started. That's the information you should have gathered basis drawing your Agile strategy canvas about your competition. Now, once you've drawn the Agile strategy canvases, what you would see would be 4 different curves. But if you look at the P by V ratio, which is the prices to value ratio, because you have information on the price availability as well. So the price to value ratio of each of these 4 products is pretty much the same, right? So online gaming is what differentiates major players from each other. Out of all the curves, it's only Yellow Console which looks like a little different, but it's not a blue ocean because it's competing for the same piece of pie which everybody else is. So it's still in the red ocean, but it has a divergent value curve. Yellow Console is #1 in low price segment despite low or very low levels among most competing factors. Over 33% of traditional gamers do not have high product expectations. That's important to understand, right? That the traditional gamers who are your actual customers right now, over 33% of them do not expect, you know, a high-end experience. What they want is probably a mid-range experience at a cheaper price. That's what they're talking about, right? But the focus now has to shift from the actual customer base that you have to the non-customers that are part of the mix, which are the non-gamers, right? So how do we now look at the non-gamers, basis the visual exploration that's available to us, and then draw inferences from that? Yeah. So let's see how the visual exploration section that was available to you in a dialogue format between the executive team should have been interpreted ideally, right? So if you would have taken a logical approach, that's how you should have bifurcated the information that was available, you know. So there are 3 different paths available to you, right? Path 1, path 3, and path 5. So who is this particular path targeting? What are the expected volumes that this path can generate? And these are the volumes of non-customers and not existing customers. What is the price sensitivity of these customers? You know, because that's also important. You have to keep in mind not just what you're trying to provide to the target group that you have identified. In this case, the non-customers, people who are not traditional gamers. So what is their price sensitivity? Because your pricing decision would be based on that, you know. So, and based on that, what can you reduce our rates? So for these new age non-customers, what are the factors that the industry has competed on for a long time, but these people actually don't need those factors? So those can be reduced or raised. What are the new factors that can be created? And so on and so forth. Let's start with part 3, which is the chain of the buyers and the users, right? So here we're talking about buyer groups, right? Who is the purchaser? Who is the influencer? Who is the end user? Now, till year 43, the focus of the industry was primarily on gamers who are the end users. So everybody in the market is focusing on the users directly, right? But based on Blue Ocean strategy, we say that, okay, not all the gamers buy the product themselves. You know, they might be the end users, but they don't buy it. Now, their parents, now these are people who are young, right? And for them, their parents are actually making the buying decision. So they are actually influencers, right? In terms of or the parents are the purchasers in this particular decision making. So how can you shift the industry focus from focusing on the end user to the purchaser? Because here we're talking about parents of potential gamers, and their requirements might be very different. So if you look at the potential create features for them, we're talking about control gaming, rechargeable batteries, HDD game storage, so on and so forth. Other potential create factors that you might have is, probably leaving messages, or you could have a roving wireless, so on and so forth. But primarily, the three important features that they want is control gaming, rechargeable batteries, and HDD game storage, right? What can you reduce or raise? There is no information available, but based upon your assessment, you could actually raise things like multimedia add-ons, visuals, so on and so forth, because 33% of the traditional gamers don't want sophisticated experiences. So what about the non-users? Why would you want to provide them a sophisticated experience when the actual industry users don't want it, right? Now the volume that this part can generate is about 2 to 5 million units. Ideally, if you would have focused on this particular path, you should have had, and only on this path, and your other strategies were right as well. You could have scaled a growth of about, you could have achieved sales figures of around 3.1 million, and your ideal selling price for this part should have been around $350, because that is when you'll be able to make your margins as well, right? So, and these customers, their price sensitivity is from medium to high. That's the information that you should have deduced from part 3. If you look at part 1, we're talking about alternative, right? So these are young sports people who till now haven't thought of gaming as a way to achieve the purpose which playing outdoor games provides. So how can you actually bring these people in? These young sports people. This path would give you expected volumes of about 2 to 5 million units, and if you get this right, you'll be able to sell it at about $250, and the expected volume sales would be about 3.2 million units, right? Again, the price sensitivity of these young gamers is very high, so they want something cheap, readily available, not too complex. They have little interest in sophisticated control features, so you can remove all those sophisticated control features. But what they want is a choice over the number of players, who can play, and extra gaming. Things like, the Sony Y, which has those hand gestures and so on. So the elements of extra gaming should be available. And other potential create factors could have been the space saving footprint. Now part 5 is about changing the emotional or the functional orientation of the industry, right? So right now the industry, as you see, is very emotional, right? Because you're appealing to the hardcore gamers thus far. But can you make it more functional by not focusing on a particular target group, but looking at a different target group altogether, which are retired folks, that young adults and families. Now these people want a game which is more functional in nature, so that they can use it for, let's say, to kill time, or to keep themselves occupied when they have nothing else to do. So it's more functional. It serves a purpose. If I have time at hand, what can I actually end up doing? If you would have taken this path and got all the decisions of it right, you could have sold it at around $250, and you could have ended up selling about 2.7 million units in sales volume. Now again, the price sensitivity for these customers is high. They have no interest or little interest in sophisticated control features, but the factors that these people actually want are number of players, ease of starting games, and convivial games. So things that they understand in real life and can be put on a gaming platform. That's what they're looking for. So that's the analysis of each of the 3 paths. And like Gayatri, you were mentioning earlier, you could focus on one specific path. You could focus on a combination of these 3 paths as well. But the ideal solution will actually look at identifying commonalities across these 2 paths and say, okay, can I come up with a product that can focus on more than one path? Because if you look at combining any one of these 2 paths, right? So let's say, for example, part 1 and part 3. If you do that, your target audience straight away moves from 2 to 5 million units to 4 to 10 million units. So it's an exponential jump that you get in your target audience, and hence you can focus on achieving more sales growth by looking at combination of parts. But it's not easy because not all the parts have all the things which are overlapping. If you see in terms of the desired features that the non-customers want, maybe part 1 and part 5 fit in better together because there is one element which is common, right? 1 and 3 don't go that well together. Neither do 3 and 5, right? But you can actually choose and try multiple permutations and combinations to see what works. Now, what we do first? We created the as-is strategy canvas. Then we looked at the visual exploration, deduced information from that as to what elements of the 6-part framework can be utilized, and then come to the 4-action framework and ask ourselves the question: what can we reduce and eliminate from the existing as-is strategy canvas that I have of Redbox, and what can I raise and create to push for a quantum leap in buyer value? So the raise and create helps me increase the value quotient of my product. The eliminate and reduce help me achieve cost effectiveness by taking away factors which are not important anymore, right? So that's how the analysis should have been approached and taken up simultaneously. Now, if you have any questions on this particular analysis that I have shared with you, please feel free to ask it now, because after this we will get into team performance and I will be taking you through individual solutions. So if you have any questions on the analysis bit, please feel free to ask your questions now. Guys, if you want to speak up, please feel free to speak up as well.
Hi Piyush, it's Sandeep. Good morning.
Hi Sandeep, very good morning to you as well. Please go ahead, Sandeep. Yeah. Tell me what you have to share.
So actually there are 2 guides we have. One is participant handbook, and other is this visual exploration. So we try to use both of them, but we choose only part 3.
Okay.
So we could create some of the new features, and we try to keep the price low. Okay, but still, we found in the analysis that the price was so high, and it exceeded the expectation of market. Okay. So, like you said about the analysis. So, is there any way in the simulation that we can choose only one path and target only one age group specifically?
Yes, absolutely, you could, but that entirely depends upon your reading of the visual exploration, right? What I've shared with you is an ideal analysis that if you look at everything that goes into the visual exploration section, you will get to. Okay, let me just take you back to that screen so that you guys can have a look at it also. So an ideal analysis should give you this sort of a picture, right? An in-depth analysis of the conversation in the visual exploration section. Now, as far as a particular part giving you returns is concerned, that can happen, but you need to understand, Sandeep, that it is not just the product creation here which is important. Obviously, that is the crux of the matter. Identifying which path you choose would then lead to a specific type of product being created. But once you've created the product, you need to understand that identification of how much geography are you going to focus on in terms of selling this particular product. So if you look at, let's say, 2 to 5 million units, now this is going to be spread across both Roundland and Starland, right? So if you look at it pure mathematically, you would have probably 2.5 million non-customers in Roundland and 2.5 million non-customers in Starland. So if you're starting with Roundland and you're covering, let's say, 50% of Roundland because it's a new product that you're launching, so you would probably want to do a test run, in the first year and not spread yourself too thin. So if you're focusing on 50% of Roundland, now the access that you have is limited to what? 2.5 by 2 million customers. So 1.25 million customers is what you can get in 50% of the geography. Now, if you have to focus on 50% of the geography, what amount of marketing budget will you have to spend? That's one, right? What are how many units are you going to produce? This is the first analysis that you did, and how much money is going to be spent in the development of the product. Now, if you look at product development, the idea is that the leap in value is being created by the new factors that you create. So let's say, for example, part 3. Let's say you picked up 2 of the 3 features. You added control gaming and you added rechargeable batteries. So you've created a leap in value. But were you able to reduce and raise enough factors to bring your cost structures down? That's also important and will help define your margins at the end of the day. As we move along, you would see how you could approach this a little better in terms of identifying what geography to focus on, and accordingly reverse engineering how many products you have to create based on market forecast and your geographical expansion plans. So, Sandeep, does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you, Piyush. So other thing is, why simulation is providing us no option for 50-50 for Roundland and Starland?
Okay. So
does it mean?
Okay, Sandeep, I had shared this in the previous session also, and I will share it once again. The way the simulation is being designed is very simple, right? Okay, let's say, for example, we are Tata, right? We're Tata Motors, and we've just launched Nano, right? So when I launch Nano, I would probably want to launch it in India first before I take it out to any global market. So that's the simple logic, that you start from Roundland, and first you finish your entire geographical expansion in Roundland, and then you can think about moving to a different or alternative geography altogether. So you cover 100% of Roundland, and then you get access to selling your product in Starland as well. So that's the only logic which is applicable here, and there is no other associated logic with this particular scenario.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, perfect. Guys, any more questions on the analysis, or if you want to share your views based on what I have shared?
One more question. Here, the price sensitivity you are saying means the analysis says that all 3 parts, they are highly sensitive to price. And maximum price is here is 350 and lower price is 250. So any product lower than 250, it's a good choice for customers, non-customers.
Absolutely.
Oh,
again, we'll talk about pricing as well as we move on and look at the results. Yeah, guys, I'm going to quickly move on now, and I want to spend more time on your inputs and your results so that everybody can understand how your performance has shaped the outcome. Okay, so we start by analysis of the 2B strategy canvases of different teams and try and identify what parts every team has taken up. So start with team astronomy. So if you look at the new factors that they've created, they're focusing on rechargeable batteries, controlling gaming habits, so on and so forth. So basically part 3, but they've added features like personalization, disk damage prevention. The question now here is that audio sophistication, online gaming, they've completely taken away. Price, they've kept the price exactly as it was with the red box. So not much of a differentiation there. So part 3 is there, but is it focused enough? You've added features like disk damage prevention and personalization. Is your non-customer actually wanting those features? So you've added those features, so that would increase your development cost as well, right? So if your development cost is being enhanced, how do you now pass on or come up with a product which is low in cost, and then you can have a higher margin and sell it at a certain premium? So part astronomy, team astronomy is focused on part 3, but it isn't focused enough. Team Constellation, again, if you look at what they have added, again, rechargeable batteries, ability to control gaming habits, but they've spread it too thin, right? They've also gone for length and complexity of games, which is a factor which is appealing to people from path 5, yeah? So reducing that. So now you're trying to mix path 3 and path 5 here, which actually don't have commonalities. So the focus is missing over here. So you've done good on the reduce, on the eliminate parts. You've eliminated multimedia add-ons, but things like console power, controller sophistication, graphic sophistication, you could have reduced further, right? So that is the area of opportunity for Team Constellation to look at how can they reduce their cost structures by reducing some of the existing industry features and removing the new create features which are not desirable for the client, right? Or the end consumer, sorry. Okay, Team Earth, again, I think this is a very good example of how a simple and a focused approach can help you create a good blue ocean for yourself. So they're focused on path 3 and path 5. If you look at ability to control gaming habits, number of possible players, and online and controller sophistication. So path 5, if we talk about path 5, I'm just going to showcase this to you again. So if you look at path 5 here, path 5 is about number of players, and path 3 is about controlling the gaming habits. So they focused on controlling the gaming habits. They picked up one factor from there. They've picked up one factor from path 5. Personalization they've added. So they haven't gone far too much. But in terms of reduction, the controller sophistication is still high, right? Yes, Sandeep, you would have targeted path 3, but now basis the analysis. Do you see how picking up one particular, and as we move on, you would see in terms of sales figures and everything else, how this would impact. Now, okay, very simple rationale, right? So you are saying, Sandeep, that you focused only on path 3. Now, as per me, you focused on path 5 as well. So your target group of the non-customers actually goes up, and now you can actually have a target audience of about 4 to 9 million. So your entire calculation of how many units to produce changes dramatically from this particular aspect. You know, this just one particular aspect. So do you see how interpreting the to-be strategy canvas is so very important in terms of coming up with a strategic approach as to how much to produce? Because see, it's very simple. You can create a product, but till the time you nail the production units in terms of how many units can you produce and can you sell, you will never make profit, because if you overproduce, you'll be penalized. If you underproduce, you will be penalized. So how do you identify what is the right number? The right number stems from the path that you're choosing and the access to the non-customer it's providing. And from there, it becomes very simple. The simulation tells you that the distribution of people across downline and starline is uniform. So there's not much of a difference there. You know how much the total target group size is. You know the amount of geography you're focusing on. So you get the probable number of non-customers that you can get. As simple as that. Yeah. So that's the canvas of Team Earth. Team Galaxy again focused on path 1 and path 3. So things like rechargeable batteries. They're focusing on XR gaming and XR entertainment. So again, a good approach, but you know, you could have focused more on reducing certain factors like controller sophistication, graphic sophistication, control power. That would have helped you reduce your cost structures further and hence help you increase your margins, right? Guys, do you see where I'm going with this? I'm trying to reverse engineer your strategy basis your strategy canvases. Yeah, does it make sense to everybody? Can you see what you've done right and what are the areas of opportunity for you guys? All right, perfect, perfect. Okay, so moving on. Team Jupiter again. Team Jupiter is a curious case. They've actually ended up targeting all paths. So if you look at their factors, they've included playing convivial games, which is path 5. They have Excel gaming, which is path 1. And then you have ease of starting games, which is again path 5. And they have rechargeable batteries, which is path 3. So path 1, 3 and 5 factors coming from everywhere. So this is basically a hodgepodge that's happening. Again, not enough of reduction. So the cost structures might be high. Now, you would see the impact of your strategy canvases in the results that come out. Team Mars, again, a combination of path 3 and path 5. They've done well on the reduce and raise aspect, so their cost structures are actually low. Team Mercury, again, not a very focused approach. They focused on path 3 only, but they've added a lot of other features which might or might not be desirable for the end consumers. Again, audio sophistication, they could have focused on lowering it down. Same with graphic sophistication. So the opportunities to reduce are more here. And see, by looking at this graph, I can straight away tell whether your per unit production cost would be high or low. So twin-fold approach, how to actually go ahead and reduce your cost structures and increase the buyer value. The cornerstone of Blue Ocean strategy is value innovation. Provide a high value product to the end consumer, but at the same point in time, reduce your cost structure. Reduce your cost structure by having a uniform product that's been created. All right. So that's how we go forward with this one. And again, any questions on the strategy canvases and the learning emerging from the strategy canvases? I'd like to take them now, one step at a time, so that you guys, yeah, go on.
Piyush, we didn't find our group evolution here, analysis.
Evolution. I think we did 7, right? Mercury. Okay, let me say Mars, Jupiter 3, Galaxy 4, Earth 5, Constellation 6, and Astronomy 7. We've got 7 teams here. Evolution was, I don't think Evolution was a team name, Gayatri. Ed?
Okay, Piyush, let me check because Constellation is ours. Okay.
Okay. That's all right. So,
Okay.
would you want to have a look at Constellation again? I'll let you see your strategy canvas.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, does it make sense? Okay, perfect.
This doesn't look like ours. I don't know what has happened. Let me check again, Piyush.
See, I have just picked up these from the back end. So these are the inputs that you've made. So I'm pretty sure this is what you end up creating. Maybe the person who entered the final decisions applied his brains and changed the team's decision.
Okay.
Maybe that's the case.
Okay,
So you'll have to have an internal dialogue.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Guys, any questions on learning emerging from the 2B strategy canvas? I'll be more than happy to take questions now on the strategy canvas. No? Okay. So move on. Let's move on. Now, this is where the domino effect actually kicks in. So we're talking about the 2B strategy canvas which we've designed. So aligned with the 2B strategy canvas, now let's look at your base unit cost. Okay. I'll let you have a look at this, right? And then we'll talk about this. So if you look across, Team Mars has the lowest offering unit cost. And if you now draw back to my conversation about 3 minutes back, and I said Mars has been able to reduce their cost structures really well. That's why their offering unit cost price is $127. Now, if you look at the Redbox unit cost price in year 40, when the simulation actually started, it was $155, right? Now, $155 was the actual starting price or the base unit price of Redbox. So, teams like Jupiter, Mercury, Constellation, Galaxy, they all have actually exceeded by a lot margin the red box unit cost. So you're trying to compete now, but what's actually happening is that you're coming up with a product which is a high-end product, and you're not delivering enough new value to the customer, and you're not able to reduce your cost structure. So have you actually applied Blue Ocean strategy properly? I don't really think so, because again, two things that are happening, especially again, a case in point being Team Constellation, for example. So you say you're focusing on part 3, but when you're part of part 3, it's actually not emerging from. Guys, just give me a minute. Sorry, guys. All right. So if you look at Team Constellation, and I'm going to take you back for a second to the strategy canvas so that you can actually see what I'm trying to tell you. Okay. So part 3 is where their focus is, but instead of having a focused approach of picking up only 2 or 3 factors, which is rechargeable batteries and ability to control gaming habits, if they would have just picked up those 2 and done away with everything else that they've created afresh, that's one, and reduced more features like audio sophistication, control power sophistication, graphics sophistication, and so on, this would have been a game changer. See, value increase you're providing by creating only 2 new factors, and reduction or in cost structures you could have achieved by reducing what the industry is focused on thus far. Hence, Constellation, your base unit price is so high because you've added too many new features which are not appealing to your non-customer group, and you haven't reduced enough. So you've just created another red ocean product rather than creating a blue box. Do you understand the difference now, Gayatri?
Yeah, Piyush, I think we understand. That's why our base cost was 230, and that's why the price we placed was higher, and that's why we dropped, our sales dropped.
Absolutely. So now you see, that's what I meant, the domino effect. It's all stemming from your product. If you don't get your product right, whatever you do with your pricing, with your marketing budget, with your geographical expansion, it's not going to work. It's not going to work, right? So the cornerstone of Blue Ocean strategy, as I mentioned earlier also, is value innovation. Value innovation means providing a leap in value for your non-customer at a base unit cost which is far less than the competition. Yeah, so that's what it is. Now let's look at the actual offering unit cost. Yes, you can, Arun. You can. You can have one feature each from each of the 3 parts, and you could come up with a product. But then again, will you be able to sell it at a price point? So if you look at part 3 and part 5, the commonality, part 1 and part 5 to be specific, right? So the commonalities are more, the price sensitivity is more. So if you create a product at, let's say, a price of $100 and you're selling it at $250, right? Because that's what they want at that price band. That's the sensitivity. You're making a margin of $150 on each sale that you're making. That's great. That's wonderful. Now the same product, you can actually charge a premium price if you're targeting part 3. If you're providing controlled gaming habits, people are willing to pay more for that, right? Because these are parents who are the purchasers and they want to control the gaming habits of their kids. So you can actually charge more from them and have a higher margin there. So how do you mix the needs of these 3 groups together? It's not just the product creation bit, but also what happens post the product creation, which is what we're going to talk about now. But in a nutshell, if I can answer your question, Arun, it would be yes. Now you see, offering unit cost. So the previous slide was your base unit cost, right, based upon your product design. But now let's look at your actual unit cost. Now to give you a differentiation, I have two graphs here. The bigger graph is your actual unit cost, and the smaller graph is the one that we saw in the previous slide. It's the offering unit cost base. So Astronomy's base unit cost was 137, but the actual unit cost was 187. Yeah, and this is because they would have underproduced or overproduced, because of which a penalty is being levied on them. Constellation, your price was 233 base price, but your actual unit cost was 446 because you would have underproduced or overproduced. So this is post application of the penalty. What was your actual unit cost? Yeah. So if you look at Team Mars, their actual unit cost or the base unit cost was 127, but their final or offering unit cost actual was about $137. So you see, you have to not only set the right price, but have the right number of volume sales to get a base unit, to get an actual unit cost which is lower than the red box, and provides you more opportunities to increase your margins. Guys, does this make sense? The difference between base unit cost and actual unit cost? Okay, fair enough. Let's move on. Okay, corporate projects. Now, I stressed on the fact that we need to focus on corporate projects as a medium to provide cost reduction over a period of time. So, this is a listing of the different corporate projects that different teams have chosen, and I'm going to show you the impact of these in terms of the R&D spend and so on and so forth. So, let's just move on and see the impact of corporate projects. So, COGS, cost of goods sold. Team Jupiter, Constellation and Astronomy have managed to secure about a 1% reduction in COGS each by choosing the kind of corporate projects that they have. What is the reduction in R&D spend? Team Mars and Team Earth have been able to reduce 5% of their cost structures in the R&D spend by choosing the right corporate project. So this is what, and again, with every round you will have different types of corporate projects available. So this is another tool for you to lower your cost structures over a period of time. So the primary tool was the 2B strategy canvas. So how can you come up with a product which will help you have reduced cost structures? But at the same point in time, can you do more with these corporate projects to reduce your cost structure and in turn enhance your profitability? Yeah, does that make sense, guys? Everybody? Again, this is a heads up to all the teams. Please don't neglect corporate projects in a longer period of time. Over the next 6 years, if you choose the right projects, initially you can have exponential results coming up in the later years. Yeah, so be very careful about the corporate projects that you choose. Go on.
Yeah, hi Piyush, it's Sandeep. My question here is these projects we have chosen for first round. So do we need to continue these projects for next round also if they are giving a good return, or change it?
Depending upon what you've executed and the timelines of these projects, they would already be in place. What you can do is that you can bring on new projects on board. So these would continue, because as per the information available to you, you would see that some projects have a larger turnaround time in terms of the results that they produce, right? So if you, let's say, for example, chose, let me just go back and pick up a relevant example from here only. So let's say Team Earth. So you see, Team Earth has actually chosen two projects. One is leadership development, and second is training selected employees in project management. Now, if you go ahead and read the details of these projects, it will tell you what will be the impact of this particular project and what will be the timelines of impact. So it's a one-time cost that you will incur in a particular round. In the next round, if you want, you can go ahead and choose a new corporate project the effect of the previous corporate project would continue over the timelines that it falls into. Sandeep, does that answer your question?
Yeah, but if we choose another two projects in next round, it will add some more cost.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But that's the cost benefit analysis that you have to do. You have to see what your long-term strategy is and what corporate projects will actually fulfill that strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, so there is a table given in the simulation saying some projects are available for round one,
Yeah.
blue one, some are for blue 3 and some are for red, but there is
Yes.
nothing given for round 2, blue 2.
Round blue 2. No, you will have once round blue 2 kicks in, you will have a set of specific projects available for blue 2 as well.
Okay.
Don't worry about that. Yeah.
So we will get a new guide for round 2, visual exploration.
Which it will be an updated version of the same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Don't worry. First, let's finish the analysis of round blue 1. Let's not jump the gun and move to blue 2. Yeah. All right. So this is what you've done so far, and now let's look at the money, because the money makes the world go round. Huh? And let's see how each team has performed and what your investments have been like. So this is the developmental budget. How much has each team spent on developing a new product? So if you look at, okay, I'll let you look at these numbers and see which team has spent more in terms of R&D and which team has spent less. Again, this has nothing to do. This provides us only a limited picture, right? If you created more features like Team Constellation, obviously your R&D spend is going to be high. If you've had a focused approach like Team Mercury and you've reduced more, your R&D spend would be low, right? So there is no ideal figure here. This is just for user to see how much each team has spent. Okay, production, very important, right? So after designing the right blue ocean product, the most important thing is to identify how much non-customers can you target with this particular product, and accordingly do a reverse engineering of how many units you can sell, because your production planning has to happen like that. So if you see, astronomy, constellation, galaxy, Jupiter, Mars, Mercury have all been very conservative in terms of their production planning. If you look at Team Earth, they created the most number of products because they got their production planning more accurate than anybody else. But you cannot look at production planning in isolation. You have to look at production planning with respect to your decision as far as geographical expansion goes. So let's look at this in conjunction with geographical expansion also. So what's the science? I've already explained you the science. You have a fixed amount of non-customer group that are available to you based on a particular path. Which path are you choosing as per your strategy formulation? You decide that first, and then you get a particular audience group. The distribution across geography is uniform. So based upon how much geography you're targeting, you can get at a certain figure. You can also look at market forecast and say, what can I do? Again, you're only worried about the non-customers. You're not worried about the red box product, because that's been managed by the simulation itself, right? So the science is pretty simple. Look at your target group, look at the geographical expansion, and probably add or reduce a little bit more based upon your conservative approach. Now the price. Okay, we'll come to the geography in a bit, and then we'll compare the two, the geography and the pricing strategy. So if you look at the price points now, Team Earth actually ended up creating a product which was focused on part 3, if I'm not mistaken. And look at the price point. They're selling it $199. Why will not people buy that product? It's cheap, it's high quality, and their reach is also higher. But if you look at teams like Team Jupiter, Team Constellation, they're trying to do an Apple, you know. So innovation, okay, the question now falls is, does innovation or does value innovation come at a premium for the organization? Can you charge a premium for value innovation? Now, going back to the discussion that we had about pricing strategies last time around and the graph that Manikya explained, it is all about A, the target group that you have, and B, the level of control that you have over imitation. So if you have a highly patented product, you can probably charge a premium for that. But in this scenario, we know that there is not going to be much of an advantage over the other players on product quality. So you have to ensure that whenever a new product is launched, you can kill imitation by pricing it right. So Team Constellation, Team Jupiter, food for thought for you guys to consider your pricing strategy. Yeah. Again, first consider your product strategy in terms of product creation, and then come to the pricing strategy. Guys, does it make sense to everybody?
Yeah, Piyush. One thing here.
Sure.
When we make a decision,
Yeah.
blue ocean decision, and it comes up with some figure like EBITDA and number of units depending on that. Okay. So
Yeah.
if we increase the number of units production, then it gives us EBITDA in plus, okay, in green color. But if we reduce it, let's say to 500, 1500 or 2000, this figure gives us in red, okay. So how can we go with that estimate?
Sandeep, if I understand your question correctly, what you're trying to say is that what is the figure that would give you a positive EBITDA or a negative EBITDA, right?
Yeah.
Okay, two things. EBITDA is not associated with production cost. Obviously, it's associated with production numbers. It's associated with sales numbers, right? So you can produce as much as you can, but will the consumers buy it or not? That's the most important element, right? So let's say you manufactured 100,000 units, yeah, but you were only able to sell 500 units. Obviously, your EBITDA is going to be negative, right? So the units that you produce doesn't define the EBITDA, but at the end of the day, the number of units that you produce will define your sales capability. कि आप कितना बेच सकते हैं? How much can you actually sell? So in that respect, as I mentioned earlier, in so many different ways I can say this. I'll reiterate myself once again. Look at your target audience based upon the paths that you focused on. You would know how much value, how many people you can get in terms of non-customers. Then look at your geographical expansion and reverse engineer. Now, I'm not going to spoon feed you and tell you how you can get to this, because I think I've shared enough information thus far, and it's for you guys to take it forward. Otherwise, I could actually go ahead and play the simulation for you guys. Sandeep, does that answer your question?
Yeah. So for example, here, if I reduce the price to 189 for Earth, right, then it gives a negative EBITDA in the estimate. Okay.
Yeah, because you have to look at this price in conjunction with your base unit cost. See, your EBITDA is your margin, right? It's your earning before income tax, appreciation, and depreciation. Now, if you look at your base unit cost, and let's do that. It'll be, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to bring up that graph. Just give me a second. Let's do that. Actual cost. Okay. Let's have a look at this. Guys, can you see now? So Earth is selling at 199 and their base unit cost is 153. Yeah, so we're not bothered about the base unit cost. We're actually worried about the actual cost, right? Because the actual cost is reflective of what was your production planning and were you able to achieve it or not, right? So let's focus on that. So their actual unit cost is 152. So it takes $152 to produce one console by the Earth team, and they're selling it at 199. So now look at the margins that they have. What is the margin? $47. $47 is your margin. Now if I reduce this margin and look at the number of volume sales I have generated, that would probably define my EBITDA, right? That is my EBITDA. That is where my EBITDA is coming from, minus the investment in the development project, so on and so forth. So if I reduce my margins, obviously my EBITDA is going to go up or down. So it's not just a game of margins, it's also a game of sales volumes that you can generate. Sandeep, does that answer your question now? Okay, perfect. Guys, now this is what I want you to consider. 2 points, right? Should innovation necessarily be highly priced? I don't think so, personally speaking. Second, if your unit cost is low enough to afford a low price, see, it all stems from your unit cost. If you're not able to design the right product, you can might as well forget it and go back home, you know. So focus on product creation and then move on to the pricing strategy and geographical expansion. All right. Let's look at the marketing budgets, right? How much has each team spent? Again, the marketing budget has to be looked on in association with your geographical expansion. So if you're expanding in a larger geography, you'll probably need larger marketing budgets. So initially, this is a new product that you're launching, so it's important for you to get. All right, I'm sorry about that. So it's important for you to get a hold of the media channels through which you can spread the word around this new product that is being launched. So a mix of geographical expansion along with the availability of budgets that you have would define your marketing budget. Now the thing to keep in mind is, are you spending too much? Based upon how much you have, because successful blue oceans necessarily do not need massive advertising budgets. Like you can replenish your approach by looking at different avenues, but not necessarily would you need a lot of marketing budgets to gain business supremacy. So that's that. Now this is the geographical expansion. You can see who's expanded where. So if you look at Team Earth, they have focused on 80% of round length. Astronomy, constellation, and Mercury have covered entire round length, right? I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I'm saying this would define how many people can you target in the non-customer group that you have focused on, and accordingly will give you how many units you can actually sell. Yeah. So guys, look at all these factors not in isolation but in combination, right? Because that's how business is. You cannot look at one particular element and overlook the other elements. So your geographical expansion is the seed for how many non-customers can you get in a particular geography. Make sense, guys? Any questions thus far? Okay. So any wild guesses who would have the highest share price index? Which team would have the highest share price index? Wow. So we're talking about all the different astronomical things, and it's the people from Earth who've actually taken the game. Okay. Let's look at the final results. Let's look at which team has been able to grow the market more, right? So every team has achieved some growth. So the market size in the year 43 was about 9.7 million units. So when you started, the market size was 9.7 million units. But now if you see, every team has been able to grow their market a little bit. Earth has been the best in terms of growing the market, because again, this figure includes both sales from Redbox and Bluebox. So I want you to keep that in mind. Redbox is being managed by the simulation, so it should be ideally similar for everybody. But Earth has been able to grow their blue ocean market much more than the others. Hence, they are the market leaders with around 11 million in unit sales in year 44. Okay, move on. If you look at unit sales in terms of how many units have been sold, so Redbox sold about 1.8 million units in this particular year, in year 44. Now, if you look at who has been able to sell the most number of units, it's Team Earth, of course. They have sold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1.5 million units, so which is very good, right, compared to where they are. Moving on. So if you look at production in terms of Bluebox, now you can see the differentiation, right? How many did they produce and how many did they sell? So Team Earth again has been penalized because they produced 3,800,000 units, but they were able to only sell 1,532. Now you see how, again, Team Earth, if your production planning was more accurate, you could have had a maybe, I'm just saying maybe, a positive EBITDA this year, because the penalties wouldn't have applied to you in this particular case, and your performance would have been even better. So again, scope of improvement, right, for each team. Mercury produced 200,000 units, and their sales, Mercury, you underproduced. Look at that. You produced 200,000 units, but you ended up selling 290,000 units. So your product was good. There was demand for your product, but you were not able to meet that demand, right? So you have to look at it that way. Why was it? Maybe you have to think about expanding your geography, in which you are. Yeah, 44,000 penalty. So it's very important that you look at all these elements together and not just in isolation. Yeah. Now this is the unit sales, which is in Redbox, which is controlled by the simulator. So pretty much the same for everybody. Now this is the variation here is basis the transfer budget that you took from red to blue. So if you've taken more, maybe you see less. If you've taken less, maybe you see more. Just give me a second, guys. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that. Right. So that's the offering unit sales which is coming from Redbox. Let's move on. And okay. Now that was in unit sales. Let's look at value sales. How much have you actually? How much money have you actually made? So if you look at Bluebox in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 305 million is what you've achieved in value sales for Earth, for 44 million for astronomy, 87 million for Mercury. So you see, this is now a game of your margins, right? How much sales volumes have you generated basis the selling price that you have? This is the value sales which Redbox has generated. So your EBITDA is going to be a mix of the Redbox and the Bluebox. Do you understand? That's how your EBITDA is coming from. In the long run, the contribution of Redbox would become lower and the contribution of Bluebox would become higher. So that's how it functions. So offering EBITDA is negative for everybody, because you understand at this point in time the focus was getting the product right. which team has the and this is the EBITDA only for blue box. This is not the EBITDA for red box. Your EBITDA for red box will be positive. So your overall EBITDA is a combination of the EBITDA for the red box and the blue box. So if you look at team which has the highest or the lowest negative EBITDA, if I can put it in a double negative, is Team Mars. Yeah. So what can we learn from that? You know, this is the strategy canvas that they had, or what their marketing strategy was, or how much did they expand geographically. You know, all of this in combination needs to be looked at. So please don't be disheartened if you have a negative EBITDA. That's fair. That not every product will become profitable right from the word go. You know, so it's okay. It's a learning curve. You can improve and have exponential growth moving forward. So that's okay. So that's the offering EBITDA of Redbox. You see, it's almost positive for everybody. Now this is the final team share price index. Now the share price index in year 40, when the simulation actually started, or the industry actually started, was 1000. So you can see everybody has gone down, but that's okay because you're creating a new product and you're investing in developmental cost. So the share price index is lower. But in this also we have Earth, which is breaking away from the regular path. Team Constellation, you really have to focus on you know, enhancing your share price index. So that's the evolution that has happened. So every team has actually gone down since year 40. So that's fine. That's perfectly all right. I'll let you look at the SPIs once again, and then we'll move on and focus on the core learnings emerging from this simulation or this particular round. Okay. Any questions, guys, so far? Can you see?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Here we were penalized for overproduce, and there was a penalty of around 44K, I believe. So, what is the impact of it in the next round?
Nothing. It's done.
No, but will we get a new budget for next round?
No. So based upon the revenue generation that you've done, that same revenue would be available to you. Maximum of I'll get to the numbers. So 30% of the total revenue that you've generated will be available to you next year, with a minimum of 1 million and a maximum of 80 million, I guess. So that would be money available to you for expansion, for new product development, or making changes to this product, and your marketing budgets, your geographical expansion, so on and so forth. So you understand this, right? If you're running a live business, whatever revenues you generate is what is available to you for the next year, isn't it? How much of those revenues would you want to invest back in the business is a call that every businessman would take for himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? So you will have the budget available for next year would be based on your performance this year.
Okay. And can we get a budget from Red Ocean?
Yes.
Box?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Any more questions, guys? Okay, let's just quickly look at the key learning points and then we move on to round 2. Okay, 6 parts is used to reconstruct boundaries and focus on non-customers. So it's the non-customers that we are focusing on, right? Each part has a targeted set of non-customers and a specific volume that is available to you. So based on the path that you choose, absolutely, Kiran, you can. That's fine. And if you want to focus on multiple paths, you have to search for commonalities, right? And searching for commonalities is not enough. You also have to focus on reducing your cost structures, and looking at trade-offs. So those are the primary learnings stemming from round blue 1. If you have any questions, guys, I'll be happy to take them now. Otherwise, we can move on to round blue 2 and talk about what your role is going to be in round blue 2. Questions, queries, inputs, thoughts, anybody? Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm going to move on. Guys, I hope I've been able to clarify any doubts that you might have had in terms of the different avenues that you touch base on the simulation. Yeah. If there's any particular section you want me to go back and have a detailed feedback on, please feel free to ping me on WhatsApp, and we could schedule a phone call and take it up on a one-on-one level. I'll be more than happy to do that. Yeah. All right, perfect. Moving on. Now you move on to year 55, right? Year 44 is gone. Year 45, sorry. Year 45, round blue 2. Now round blue 2 provides you a run of 2 years. So 45 and 46 is blue 2. Now, two things you have to focus on. First is product again, but along with product, pricing as well. Strategic pricing, because at a particular strategic price, you'll be able to unlock a further set of demand, which will be a spillover from the existing customer base, right? Because once a new product comes out, people from the existing industry will also shift towards buying your product if your price is right. So here, your job is to look at, first evaluate the sales, market share, the EBITDA, which we've done right now. You can do it in a much more detailed fashion. You can download the Excel files, slice it, dice it, look at it from different perspectives. Read the feedback which is available. Yeah, you'll have to probably go back and reread and debate the visual exploration, because the visual exploration pretty much remains the same, but you have to look at it in the light of the feedback that is provided to you for this particular round, right? So if you look at this particular feedback messages, look at these feedback messages, look at the information that I have shared, and try and create a new product, right? So again, reread and debate the visual exploration. What did you interpret, and was your interpretation correct or not? Then refine your 2B strategy canvas. Did you raise factors too high? Did you create too many factors which are not required? Can you further eliminate and reduce? If your cost is too high, is it too high because that would affect your profitability? Can you set a lower price to unlock more demand for non-customers? So maybe you're selling at a much higher price. Can you sell it at a lower margin so that you can have volumes compensate for the lesser margins? So those are all the questions that you have to answer for yourself in these 2 rounds, right? So you are not going to launch a new product. It will be blue box only, but it will be a refined form of blue box. Yeah. So focus in this round is on product again, but along with product, pricing as well. So 2 more years decisions. You can decide on any corporate projects to support your strategy. You can allocate your total budget across red box and blue box like was available in the previous round. So that's it. So nothing much changes, but you have the ability to now further refine your product over a 2-year period, and that's what is the key of round blue 2. Yes, absolutely. See, because it's a time crunch that we have, so I would advise you to at least sit and work on the first round today, so that you can then work on Monday, because we have a session on Tuesday, I guess. Tuesday, 9 o'clock in the evening, we have a session, isn't it? Is that correct? What I can do, guys, is that I can extend the deadline for you guys, because I know it's a little difficult. So maybe, okay, maybe let's say noon on Tuesday. I'll give you time till noon Tuesday. Does that work? Yeah. All right. what I would do is that I would try and share certain snippets of information in the form of an Excel on the portal along with the link for today's session. But individually, you have all the information available to you in the simulation itself. If you go to the annual report section, you can download all the reports in an Excel format and analyze it yourself. Yeah? Alright guys, if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to take them now. If you want to take, sure.
Yeah, please. So the corporate project you said we can choose for each round, but there is no project available for round 2. So
Sandeep, as I said earlier, I haven't started round blue 2 yet from my end. That's why you don't see any projects.
So means we cannot make any decision on round 2?
Not yet.
Okay.
After this session, after the session, I will open round blue 2 and then you can move on and make decisions.
Oh, sorry, I thought that it is open.
No, not a problem.
Okay.
Not yet.
Thanks.
Yeah, you've moved on to the next round, but you can't enter decisions yet. All right. Any more questions, guys? I hope this has been an informative session and you've been able to reflect on what you did, what was right, what's wrong, and what's the next step. All right, perfect. I think we finished 10 minutes before time, so that's great. Wonderful. Thank you for being a participative audience once again. I'm always available on WhatsApp and over a phone call. If you have any queries or questions, please feel free and look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Cheers.